Okay, it's June the 29th, 2018 from the Pollinator or Die channel, Zone 7A. Just going to give you an overview of things. This is going to be a pretty comprehensive overview since really I have not done a video all year. So here it goes. We got this main bed here next to the house, and over here is the bed on the side. And this particular bed 6 foot wide, 40 foot long. And then this kind of, I'm trying not to give people motion sickness here. We'll pan over, and way out there in the distance is 2 main beds and a couple of smaller ones. You can't really see them too good from here, but we'll be covering those as well. Those are fairly large. So right here has been the visual standout of the season, the biggest success story from a visual standpoint. This is a Sun Cities. This, I'm hoping this will bloom. I thought they were supposed to. This is a chocolate mint. And yeah, I put it up on this plant stand here, and then it sends down these little runners. I can only imagine if this was planted out like in an open bed where it was soft ground around it. Every one of those runners would have rooted, and this thing would have been like humongous. But it really has a super minty type smell to it. And of course, I imagine you could chew it or whatever. I've got lots of herbs planted, and I don't really cook with them or anything. But most herbs, supposedly the wildlife, bumblebees, butterflies like it. And so we'll continue on here. I'm really happy about this particular plant here. This is Millennium Garlic. This is over a 2-year-old plant. This is the first time it's bloomed in 2 years. I've had it in an undesirable location where all the birds and squirrels trampled it all the time, and it never had a chance. So put it in a pot where it could just be up out of harm's way, and it's really done good. Right next to it, this is Bambino Marigold, and if you'll look at the blooms on the Bambino Marigold here, they're very similar to another marigold I've got planted called Disco Marigold. Okay, now this is Bambino, and this is a few inches shorter, hence the name Bambino, I imagine. A few inches shorter than this. This is Disco Marigold, which the blooms are not really that different. Even size-wise, they're not really that different. These are a little bit more bicolored, red and yellow, and the Bambino is a little bit more just solid yellow, but it does have some red. And this here is a few inches taller, not that much taller, but some taller than the Bambino. Let's look again, see if I was right about the lack of redness. Yes, there is less red in the center here, although there is some. Okay, moving on here, we've got some sort of English, pretty sure it's English and not French, some sort of English lavender. A lot of these things I'll just have to insert the name later on. I'm doing this video spur of the moment with no preparation, and I've forgotten the name of a lot of this stuff. Here is something that's going on 2 years old now and hasn't bloomed. This is an Echium, a pride of Madeira. Echium. This thing's getting quite large here, and has not bloomed yet. I overwintered it one season so far. I just don't know if I'm going to go through overwintering it again. I probably will, but no blooms on it yet. And I've kind of checked the pot. I figured maybe it was root bound, but whenever I dig down with my fingers there in the edge of the pot, it really doesn't seem to be root bound or anything. Okay, moving on here. We've got, this is some zinnias. This is, well, both of these actually are zinnias. This one here is Zowie Yellow Flame, and it's really just amazingly beautiful plant. And this here is this zinnia pinwheel mix, and it has some white, and it does have some reds somewhere here. Let's see. I will get a red. There's a red hiding down here. It's got some whites and some red burgundy, I guess you'd say. And it does have some oranges there. But the Zowie Yellow Flame, let's get a close-up of one of these. Let's find one that still has most of its little flowers in the middle intact. Oh yeah. But I'm very pleased with this Zowie Yellow Flame. I'm going to plant more of this next year. Lots of times I plant just a few of things and just, oh, I do have one pollinator. Let's see, nope, good fluke. But just plant one or two of one thing and see how it goes pollinator wise. And you know, if it does good, I'll plant more next year. But anymore, it's too early to tell, because I have plants that I know are good pollinator plants, and there just is not many pollinators out. Here it is, it's almost July, and just pathetic as far as the amount of pollinators I've had with the type of plants I've had. It's not reasonable how few pollinators there has been. Just, you know, just a few bumblebees, a few butterflies, carpenter bees, not that many. But later, it seems like if it's like last year, it'll pick up quite a bit later on in the season. We just, we don't have them earlier in the year. We used to have plenty of pollinators earlier in the year, but not anymore. So, you know, they are on the demise, it would seem. Okay, this is a Cleome plant. I do see something buzzing around there on the Cleome. Love Cleomes. They're just like the plant from another planet practically. And this one here, all of these, I've got several Cleomes. All of them are volunteer plants. This one came up in a crack. I didn't transplant it or anything. It's still in the crack. It's probably, there may be two plants involved here. And you'll see right down here, this one may not make anything right here. Let's see, there's some smaller ones also in a crack. I need to move some of these pots out and give them a little bit better chance at life. Here we have some Autumn Joy Sedum. Everybody has Autumn Joy Sedum. It's encased in some rocks there so it won't flop or anything. And let's move on. This is Bandito Lantana, purported to be a pollinator plant. All Lantana, supposedly. I have not found that the case, to be the case here, so I don't know. I planted a breed last year called Lantana Camera, and it got huge. This is a smaller, much smaller version. The Lantana Camera was yellow, and I said, well, you know, so many people have so much luck with it pollinator wise, I'll try it again, a different variety. So I planted the Bandito, and so far nothing. But like I say, it's hard to tell, because even plants I know from past history I've had success with, still not much this year, but this has been a zero so far. Okay, moving on. This was $1 buy. I'm not very pleased with it. It's some kind of osteospermum, some kind of Cape Daisy or whatever you want to call it, but it was $1 to buy at Lowe's, and it's been about a zero right open. And this is some, I've got numerous zinnia planted throughout the garden bed here. These are, well, I do have one starting to bloom here. This is Royal Red Zinnia. So there we go. I'm you know, I'm sure it won't be any more of a pollinator plant than the Zowie Wowie, but it'll just give the garden a different look. Right here is a hardy hibiscus, midnight marvel, hardy hibiscus. Of course, it's crowded in with the zinnias, but that doesn't matter so much because the zinnias will go away next year, and hardy hibiscus will still be here. There's a Nanho purple butterfly bush. Just put it in this year, and it's already gotten fairly large. Here is and even the butterfly bushes, I've not had many pollen. So that's one of the primary plants I'm talking about when I say I just don't have as many pollinators I used to. The butterfly bushes used to be, from the minute they started, blooming to the minute they quit, it was just loaded with large swallowtail butterflies and all manner of bees and bumblebees, and it's just not happening anymore till later in the season. This is lemon coneflower. This thing was blooming when I bought it a month ago, and it's still blooming, and I've not even deadheaded a single plant, or a single blossom. So these are long-lasting blooms, without question. Right here this used to be one Caryopteris. It died out in the center, so I just sort of mulched over the center of it where it looks like two plants now. Used to be one, but later on in the year, assuming the plants themselves do good, the bumblebees just love in the fall. They just love the Caryopteris. I mean, just absolutely love them. Right here, we have some Verbena Bonariensis, and I've got this particular, I got 5 of them right here surrounding a butterfly, a new butterfly bush of some sort. Don't ask me what that is, I don't know. But yeah, these are looking really good. Just starting to put blooms on the top there. So I got high hopes on these for later on, but we'll see. Right here is a plant I planted from seed, a Stello Indigo Augustache. This is one of the few varieties that seems to come true to form from seed. This particular one is only about 10 inches tall. The blooms, I don't know if you're familiar with blue boa. It really looks a lot like the blue boa Augustache, except smaller overall plant, smaller overall blooms. I prefer the blue boa, but you can't plant it from seed. This has a place in the front of a border. You could do this in the front of a border in front of blue boa. Blue boa, stair step up, a few inches taller with the blue boa. But blue boa is just an amazing looking plant. I'll show you some of that later on. Right here, let's see if I can back it up here to get it all in. Next to my cleones here is pineapple sage. Supposedly, this has really been healthy ever since I set it out. I just got them 3 plants from Walmart, $3.98 earlier in the year, and it's been healthy ever since. Supposedly, they will send up like about 2-foot spikes on top of this with red blooms, and the hummingbirds supposedly do love it. So we'll see. It's my first year planting it, so like I say, we'll see on that. I've got high hopes that something's going to like it. And here's another example of a few pollinators. This particular plant right here is African blue basil. And I've seen all manner of videos on YouTube of people in their African blue basil with the bees just eating it alive. I mean, just covered with them. I know this is a small plant. Maybe they've not had time to find it. We'll see when it gets larger. I got another one too. But so far it's been a 0, and I know this is a good pollinator plant. I just know it is. And yeah, okay. So let's move on here, round and about. Okay. And not give anybody motion sickness. Okay. Moving on There's my Plata Madeira Echin, which actually it sends up spikes too, big purple blooms, and it has to go inside every year. Okay, we've already covered all this. This is the Zowie Yellow Flame zinnias. And right here is several Mexican heathers. And last year, from a pollination standpoint, this was probably frequented by more bumblebees and in particular carpenter bees of any other plant. I've got a bee going right here. Let's see if we can just shut up and watch him a minute. Oh, he's gone. I thought about the Zowie Yellow Flame and then he left. But anyway, I've had outstanding success with the Mexican heather, and it's an annual plant. Unless you take it inside, I actually overwintered these and propagated them. So it can be done. This is aggravating. Okay, enough of him. Right here is Cottage Red Marigold, and not been much from a pollinator standpoint, but it's a nice looking group of plants. There's probably, well, I forgot to mention here on the Zowie Yellow Flame, there's probably 10 plants in this pot right here. And they have been really sturdy stem. None of them really has blown over, and we have had some hellacious windstorms here, and the yellow flame has weathered it like you would not believe. In comparison, the marigold, the cottage red marigold, I had to put some stakes in them because I came out after one of the thunderstorms and it was just splattered out all over the creation, and it looked really bad, but it's perked back up and looks really, really nice since I staked it. Again, this is the Nanho Purple Butterfly Bush. It's been a big success plant-wise. Planted it just this year to replace one which was not doing so well. And looks good, but very few pollinators on it. I do have some sort of bee. Yeah, some sort of bee. Let's see if we can get them here. Where'd you go? Okay, that was fast, but anyway, that was on the lemon yellow echinacea. Right here is an overview. This is Hyperium higcoat, otherwise known as St. John's wort, and it has these really nice yellow blooms on it. Let's see if I can get an example of one of the yellow blooms. They don't seem to, the blossoms don't seem to last too long, but they're quite pretty. I've had a few pollinators, but nothing like, if you key in on YouTube Hyperium higcoat, you will see a video of like 4 or 5 bees inside of one of those blossoms just taking a bath in the pollen, and no such luck here, nothing much so far. Although I have checked, and it don't seem like so far mine has that much pollen on them. Maybe it's growing, because I'm hoping it's growing conditions, and you know, just not that my plants will never have any pollen on it. I don't know. Here is a I've got a better example of this in another bed. This is Sonic Bloom Pink Weigelia, and even though there's no blooms on it yet, it has really, even though it's a small plant, has been a prolific bloomer. No pollinators, but it's been a prolific bloomer. So that's your thing, prolific blooms, no pollinators, that would be a good plant. Okay, these spiky, this spiky plant here, and this right here is just one plant, is a sunny, it's a speedwell, sunny borders, blue speedwell, something like that. I might have some of those words out of order. Sunny border, blue speedwell. And I know last year, this is 2 years old, when I had this last year, it was just a huge pollinator magnet. One honeybee. There we go. So good deal. So I do have just a few pollinators out and about. I don't have anything that's just like covered up like how I like to see them. I'm sure that will come later on in the season. Alrighty. Right here, this arbor. This has been plant-wise, a huge success story. And this is a Carolina Jessamine, not Carolina Jasmine, but Carolina Jessamine. Has, if the frost doesn't get them, the late frost, which is pretty problematic here, if that doesn't get them, it has some really nice yellow blooms early in the year. And even when the frost does get them, I usually have a few blooms that last underneath it, kind of on the underside that the frost doesn't get. But if I wasn't, one of these years, I'm going to have no late frost, and it's going to be amazing. I keep telling myself that. But anyway, let's move on. Right here is just, I need to put these somewhere. I just don't know where to put them. I probably shouldn't even order them. Some wild aster. And we have wild aster here, and it was just cheap when I was ordering stuff, so I ordered some. And maybe this is different than some of the things I've had here, the wild aster I've got here, but these have been in these pots over a year. I'm surprised they haven't just overwhelmed the pots, but so far they're behaving themselves. Maybe they'll take off when I ultimately do figure out something to do with them, somewhere to put them. This right here is a mango, I think it's mango popsicle. I forget exactly what you call these. They're like the red hot pokers, but there's another name to them too. But anyway, the variety of this is mango popsicle. It sent up a spike about a month ago, and I thought it was done for the year, and then it sent up another one, and then this got more. So this is pretty cool. I really thought it was just over and done with, but it's not. So that's good. That's a good thing. Okay, here we have a couple more Nanho purple butterfly bushes, and you know, I just know those things are loaded down with nectar, and they smell fantastic. They should be all manner of stuff buzzing around there, and they're not doing it. It's very frustrating. Here's another Hyperion peacock, St. John's wort. This here is a vanilla spice plethora, and I'm hoping for, you know, a nice round of blooms on it. It's a, you know, a fairly new plant, planted last year, and it's gonna bloom. I can see the blossoms or the buds, and so we'll see how it does. I've not had it bloom before, so that's good. And there's an astilbe over there, which I've had it a couple places. It seems to like it there. It gets a fair amount of sun, but apparently just enough shade to keep it happy. Over here on the left, Asclepias tuberosa, otherwise known as butterfly weed. And here is several more Verbena Bonariensis. Okay, let's just move along right through here. Planted this swamp milkweed last year. Absolutely no blooms on it last year. As a matter of fact, let's get a little view here. There's some more pollinators than I've ever seen on this. Until I came up here, they were a little more numerous and a little bit shy. And this has a really good fragrance to it. Not the type that travels, but if you stick your nose up to it, it's got a really good fragrance. And this has had some caterpillar activity, and I don't believe these are monarch caterpillars. There's some other kind of caterpillars going on here. I'll have to look up exactly which. It could be monarch, but I've not seen any monarchs in the area, but I've not seen any other caterpillars in the area that would be frequenting milkweed. And they have decimated that leaf, and they're now moved on to another leaf. I'm going to be lucky if there's enough foliage on this group of milkweed plants here to accommodate as many caterpillars as they are. There's like 7 or 8 plants, but other than this one plant that's blooming up front, they're really not that large. So we'll see. I've got a few other plants that I can move them to. Hopefully some of them will make it to the butterfly stage. I need some butterflies. Okay, right here is another. Let me see. I got bad sun right there. Better view. This is another hardy hibiscus. This is one called Mars Madness. It was planted a couple weeks ahead of the Midnight Marvel, and it's looking really, really good. Okay, I think that covers this end of the garden. Right here is, I planted this last year. This is a dwarf variety, really, Verbena Bonariensis. This is called Lollipop Verbena. I had two of these, and one of them died. Even last year during the peak pollinator season, they weren't frequented very much by pollinators. I'm hoping the true form of Verbena Bonariensis is going to do a whole lot better. A few hostas here. I really don't know. This is just a huge, huge bush right here. Kind of a low-growing evergreen conifer or pine type of bush, and I would have to look up what it is, but it's extremely healthy, and it gets like about 3 or 4 inches larger every year. It's going to take over the world someday in tortoise fashion. Right here is a very, very large turtlehead plant. That's what it is. And every year it's in its 3rd season. Every year it's just bigger and better than ever. And I've got more of it in another bed. Okay, moving on here. There's my water for all my critters, birds and squirrels predominantly. And this walkway here, on either side of the walkway, I did have some Blue Hills Salvia, but it just seemed like it wasn't faring too well here, so I moved it. Now I have lining this walkway 2 plants on either side of Maraschino Cherry Salvia, and they were just about this size when I transplanted them only a week ago, and they never wilted. I got a huge amount of roots with them, never wilted one bit. So it's probably not as sunny here for them as it should be, but I'm hoping they do okay. We'll see. This is another view of the Sunny Blue Borders Speedwell, which on the other side of this particular end, there's another Sunny Blue Borders Speedwell. There's another Sunny Blue Borders Speedwell, and this is a smallish azalea plant right here, and oddly enough it blooms like a, I don't know what breed it is. It came from Walmart, and all it said was azalea, and it stayed fairly compact, which I want it to do for this space, and it blooms a month after normal azaleas. This pink, kind of pink, red, in between the two, whatever. So I've actually been pleased with it. This is a new planting here. This is Stokes Aster. It's something like in a male's blue aster, male's Lavia blue aster. It's kind of a weird name, and it's got a bud on the top of it. It's getting ready to bloom. In reality, I probably should cut it in half so it would branch out, but I think I'm just going to let it bloom. Otherwise, I won't have any bloom off of it this season. Overall health of the plant would probably be better if I just cut it in half, and so it would be, stronger for next year. But I think I will let it bloom. Up here, this used to be a waterfall for a pond that I had, and now it's a patio instead of a pond. It's been a little bit problematic up here on the top. Right now I've got a hellebore there, which is much healthier than what it was last year. So it does get a little bit of sun here, so it's so much better looking than it was last year. So maybe it'll wind up spreading and doing something here. This other stuff is some kind of ground cover, which really needs more sun than what it's getting. But the hellebore looks promising. Down below here, where the waterfall used to be, I've got various kind of hostas. I'll maybe put the description of the hostas along the bottom of the screen or in the description, possibly, because I cannot think of them right now. This is a pincushion plant, or scabious, and I planted 5 of them. One of them outright died. All of them did reasonably well. One of them outright died. 2 of them got so ratty looking I moved them to a different location, and I think they're just going to rest till next spring, it looks like. But I've had 2 of them that have continued on to continue to look pretty good, and they have done pretty well from a pollinator standpoint. A little bitty bee of some description right there. But yeah, earlier in the season, this was the only thing in bloom just about out here, and yeah, it attracted a decent number of pollinators. This area right here is underneath a bird feeder, and the birds, all kind of birds walk through here, all kind of squirrels walk through here. It's been a problem area. This is something that I've recently transplanted from another bed called Sightseeing Veronica. Seems like a low-growing variety of Veronica, which if anything's going to hold up to foot-type animal traffic, it's going to be something which is low-growing. It don't look that low-growing because it's got these spikes on it, but the rosettes, the main part of the plant, is like this here, is kind of a mat, and that is something which I feel will hold up, and it attracts a few pollinators. It's not a very large or showy plant, but it is functional. And this, you may not be able to tell too much about it. It's kind of a mess of a plant at the moment. Ever since I've set it out in the way, it's an Amethyst Falls Wisteria, and I've had the dickens of a time trying to train it up on anything, because there's at least a dozen squirrels. I've seen a dozen at one time in this side garden here, so there's probably more than a dozen. Just up and down, up and down, up and down right there, and whatever you do, they just tear it down, not on purpose, just their actions of jumping around and tear stuff down. So what's going to have to happen here, I guess, if I keep this particular, and I'm not that crazy about the blooms. I've seen, so it's got a couple of minor blooms on it now. Let's see, right there. There's no fragrance to them that I can tell. Pretty little blooms, but they're small, and I've not seen any pollinators on them, and they don't smell. So I'm almost thinking I should have went with a more vigorous type of Wisteria. I know you have to keep it pruned, the Chinese and Japanese type of Wisteria. So I'll probably leave this for a little while and see what happens. Right here, this is your, everybody's got this just about, your variegated Liriope. Some people call it a grass, but I heard the other day it's not really a grass. It's its own plant, we'll call it. Anyway, it's not a grass plant. Don't ask me what it is. Right here is a Millionaire cigar plant, which I'm sure the hummingbirds like. This is a recent addition. I have a large number of cigar plants set out right now that the hummingbirds like pretty well. Last year, the group of hummingbirds I had last year seemed like they really adored the cigar plants. Less so this year, but they still hitting them pretty good. But this year looks like twice as showy a bloom on it as the regular Capilla plants or cigar plants. So we'll see how that goes. If that goes very well, I will eliminate all the other ones and just go with this one right here, the Millionaire. Here is another Plethora. This is here's the beginnings of the blossoms, and that's a Ruby Spice Plethora. It didn't bloom last year, but it was a new plant last year. And there is another African blue basil, which supposedly a tremendous pollinator plant. We'll see. This is an annual Salvia Amistad. So it's not bloomed yet, but we'll see how it does. Here's another hardy hibiscus. I got it at Lowe's the other day for $3 on sale. It's a pink variety. I don't know the exact name at the moment. Evening primrose right there in a pot so it doesn't spread all over the creation. Here is a Coreopsis. This is uptick, yellow and gold, something like that. Definitely uptick, probably yellow and gold. There's a couple of different upticks, but I think this is yellow and gold. Or it could be red and yellow. Anyway, it seems to attract a medium number of smallish type of pollinators, small type of bees and hoverflies and things of that nature. What do we got here? We got just a normal housefly right there. Yeah. Okay, but it does attract a fair number of smallish type of pollinators, which we need all we can get, small or large. There's another Caryopteris plant. That was fairly large. Here is another milkweed, which is only just now starting to bloom. And another Plethora here. Here, this is an offshoot of the Vanilla Spice. It sent out an offshoot and transplanted it. And over here, this is move on. Here is another Plethora. This is a dwarf type of Plethora. I can't remember the name. I'll put it across the bottom there. There's two turtles. Okay, and right here, this is another hummingbird type of plant, candy corn plant. I'll show you the blooms here, and the hummingbirds do like it. It doesn't seem like they've gone crazy over it. I think last year's crop of hummingbirds would have. When I say crop of hummingbirds, two, basically two. Occasionally I see three, and number 3 seems like it gets chased off all the time. All right, we're just about to wind this first bed down here. This is a very good example of the Cigar Plant. This is really my best one right here. I've probably got 6 or 7 cigar plants, but this one looks really good. And like I say, the hummingbirds have been on it some. This is a Mandevilla. I got this last year for $1. It's took it a while to get to this stage, so it may bloom late in the year. I'll may have to overwinter it one more year before it actually does anything. Okay, and then everything up there is the cigar plant. So I had high hopes that I would attract like a dozen hummingbirds or something this year, but it's not going to happen unless I hit a few extra ones on the fall migration. All right, we're going to move over here, and right here, this was probably a stupid idea right here. All of these plants are in pots. These are the Mexican sunflowers, the tall ones. The stupid idea being how I'm supporting them here, which I feel they need support. I probably should have just stuck up a stick in the center of each pot and went with that. It would have been much more attractive, probably just as effective. But this seems to be effective because we've had all manner of windstorms here, and this has weathered the storms. Right where the string contacts each plant, I sort of do a tie right at that point. So each plant is supported with the tall ones anyway, with 4 different points right now. Right here. Now these Mexican sunflowers, by the way, last fall was my biggest success story because they caught the fall migration of the monarchs, and at any one time there would be 20 or 30 monarchs out on my Mexican sunflowers, and that was really the only monarchs I saw all season long, so that was great. And not only monarchs, everything. I mean, the monarchs, the bumblebees, the bees, the hummingbirds. These plants are just, if you plant a pollinator type garden, plant these plants because they are really a help to the fall migrating monarchs, as well as just being great for all pollinators, except for so far this year I've not had much. That said, so far this year I've not had much, but not on anything. Okay, here's some more candy corn plant. We have 3 of them here that's not really blooming to speak of yet. More lantana. This is may not look like much, but next spring it'll come out here. It'll look good. This is a buckeye plant. I want to say Asclepias, but it's not Asclepias. It's something else. It's a small shrubby type tree. I'll put the name of it on the bottom. Supposedly the hummingbirds love it. This is only a year old. Yeah, a year old. And it looked a lot better earlier. It's one of the first trees to get its leaves in the spring, one of the first to lose them in the late summer, not the fall, the late summer. So it's in the beginning stages, to tell the truth, here on close to July 1st. It's in the beginning stages of losing leaves, I think. It's looking so scraggly. So maybe not the best choice for, front and center on a garden because of that aspect of it. But we'll see if it's all it's cracked up to be from a hummingbird standpoint early in the year. But yeah, okay. And another thing on these Tithonia Mexican sunflower, there actually is a yellow variety. I noticed on the seed packets that I had the other day, I had some yellow variety, and I haven't ever planted them, but next year I'm going to plant a few of the yellow ones and see how they do. This is more of the Bambino Lantana. Okay, moving on to this particular wild and crazy looking bed here. Plant-wise, it's been a pretty good success. Pollinator-wise, just mediocre. Here is Procosmia lucifer. And it's got just these brilliant yellow blossoms in it. A good example of that. And they are kind of floppy, but I'm not too worried about it in this particular bed because everything in this bed's kind of floppy, and so it just goes right along with it. Hummingbirds love this stuff here. Okay, here is a black knight butterfly bush, planted only this season. It has done extraordinarily well. There's some kind of salvia, maybe sensation, rose sensations, possibly rose sensation salvia. I had foxglove in bloom earlier on. They've almost all kind of petered out. The blooms have all petered out. There was a couple of them that didn't bloom that I think will wind up blooming next season probably. Right here is one little clump of Giles Van Hees salvia, kind of a small variety of salvia. If it does like it did last year, it'll just dwindle down. I thought it was dead last year. Early in the fall, you couldn't even hardly find the thing, and it popped back up. This had more turtlehead. This one seems to be traveling more than the other turtlehead. The other turtlehead is kind of maintained this real tight form. And as you can see, this one is just sending off offshoots. May have something to do with it was actually an offshoot that I planted to get this. And this is guara, which pollinator-wise, not so much, but I've always liked it. And this year, I think it got frostbit. It really should have big, long spikes of flowers that just blow all over the place in the wind. And I don't know, it just maintained kind of a small form and did not send out many blossoms this year. So there you go. Right here is a hummingbird plant. They do frequent it some, but not as much as what I was led to believe. Like I say, these two hummingbirds this year just mainly just go to the feeders and don't do that much to the plants. This is standing cypress. It's a biennial. It'll die at the end of this year. It'll supposedly self-seed a little bit. It's been pretty successful as far as the plants go. This is just a small amount of blossoms compared to what it had earlier in the year, and it does kind of flop. Just like the Crocosma lucifer sort of flops, but yeah, that's okay. Right here is, this is really a fairly recent addition. I've been pleased with the plant itself lately. This is East Friesland Salvia. It seems like it's doing really nicely. Right over here, this puny little thing, which I still have high hopes for, is a Daphne. This is the third location. The first two locations were far too wet for it. That's why it looks the way it does. It's not the plant's fault, it's my fault for not giving it a proper home. But it's much drier here, and I think this is Eternal Fragrance Daphne. This one here at the moment is only about 7 inches tall. But I do have high hopes for it. It did before we had a lot of rain and just messed it all up. It had some small blossoms which were really fragrant. So I was excited about it. Still optimistic about it. Okay, moving on. We have some sort of blanket flower right here. It's a perennial type. Don't ask me what kind it is because I just can't remember. I'm sorry. But yeah, this is doing very well. Here we have Mardi Gras Helenium, which is just expanding every year. And on this best day, not really a pollinator plant as far as your larger pollinators, but a fair number of your smaller type sweat bees and things of that nature do seem to frequent it. Close up here of the blossom. I don't think anything's on it right now. I can usually find a sweat bee or two on it. I saw a couple of little things fly off. Okay, moving on back. This is the seed packet. I wish it was more specific. I only said purple bee balm. I think this may be Monarda fistulosa or just plain old bergamot. I'm not sure. All I know is the seed packet said purple bee balm. and it's been a little bit. Last year when I planted this plant, I planted like about a dozen plants that I grew from seed. They just looked pathetic all year long, didn't do a whole lot, just remained about ankle high, kind of weak and spindly. And this year it came out with a lot of vigorous growth and had spread like wildfire. So I was really pleased at how the plant did this year, not so much pleased with the pollinators. I have not seen even a sweat bee on this stuff, nothing. And if anything's supposed to be tremendous pollinator plant, it's this stuff here. So maybe I may wind up ripping it out and putting in a different variety. I kind of like the looks of this Jacob Klein red Monarda, so I may go with it. I may give us another season, I don't know. But it's been very disappointing as far as pollinators go. Extremely disappointing, because it's taken up a large chunk of this bed is taken up by this stuff here, which would be fine if it was doing its job, which it's not. Okay, here we have more of the Hyperium bigcoat. It's not, I've already mentioned it. Here is a Shoal Creek Vitex. I have numerous of these. This is a smaller one. No, excuse me, this is a Plethora. They both have these marijuana-looking leaves to them, so that's what threw me. I do have some Vitex in here. Right here is Meadow, the Blazing Star, Meadow Blazing Star, Leatris. And this is the first pollinators I've seen on it. It's not been bloomed that much lately. Anyway, the name of this particular Leatris is Leatris linguastylis, which is less common. As I had to send off and get this. I had to get this mail order because all the big box stores around here have is this other brand, which is not blooming at the moment, Leatris spicata, otherwise known as gay feathers, and seems to be a much more vigorous type of plant, but that's probably because it's just been, trimmed back and all more than this. I should probably trim this back so it would earlier. I should have, so it would branch out. Wait a minute. Let's see. Come on. This is a hummingbird moth. People call them different things. I call them hummingbird moths. Right at the moment it is on. Whoops, I moved my foot and there it is. Right at the moment, this particular vine it was on is a Monarda. Came back to it. This is a dwarf Monarda, some kind of sugar buzz or buzz gumball. Purple gumball Monarda is what this is, which really nothing much has been on, except the thing about the hummingbird moths, I've noticed they're less picky. Okay, it is now June the 29th, 2018. My iPad overheated in the hot sun, so 1 hour in hot sun of filming, and it's going to overheat on you. Okay, this is where I left off. I was talking about this gumball purple Bee Balm. It's a dwarf variety of Bee Balm. Really pretty. I just moved it to this location. It's only about 10 inches high. not much pollination wise. And just when I said that, yesterday a hummingbird moth showed up on it, and I was just getting ready to say that hummingbird moths are sort of funny. Lots of times I'll see them pollinating some of my plants that nothing else goes to. So the hummingbird moth is really not too particular, but we'll see how this here goes in this location. It may be on the way out. If it doesn't attract pollinators and the blooms are as short as what they've been in its previous shadier location, the blooms just lasted like 10 days, and that's not long enough. Here's Arizona Red Shades Gaillardia. Looks a little bad. It's just moved to this location too because it looks a little bad. Maybe it'll do better. This here is something called Plains Coreopsis. Kind of a cool looking plant. I kind of like tall type plants. Not a lot of substance here on it. It's kind of a thready type of leaves. And so far not much in pollinators. There's been a few smaller. I've got a lot of plants that seem like attract just the smaller sweat bees, small wasp type of pollinators. Right here is rosemary. This is, and I'm sorry I can't, it's hard for me to do scale too good because I'm having to I'm filming on the iPad and have to back up quite a ways here. I'll just have to say how tall everything is. This is about 1 foot tall. This is ARP rosemary, planted this year. I planted Tuscan blue rosemary. It looked fantastic last year and was evergreen throughout much of the winter, and then died. Tuscan blue is a zone 8, we're zone 7A, and this here is supposed to be just about the hardiest rosemary. Is purported to be ARP. Right here with the red blooms is a Salvia Greggii. I've got a lot of Salvia Greggii. This particular one is Silky's Dream. I've got 13 of these suckers here in this bed, and they've been doing good. And I've not noticed much in the way of pollination, but they look very, very similar to maraschino cherry. And out in another bed, I know the maraschino cherry and the hot lips have been getting their share of pollinators. So hopefully this will too. Let's see, right here. This is a cobalt blue delphinium. I moved it over here. It's getting less sun here than it was in its pot. When it was in its pot, the foliage was pretty much variegated on it. You might be able to see some remnants of variegation. This is a small plant right at the moment, only about 6 or 7 inches tall. Let's see, right there, I can't remember if I mentioned this one yesterday, is a phlox. I don't believe I did mention it. This is Laura phlox. It's supposed to get quite a bit taller than this when it's, starts out from spring here in the garden bed, but here, there in the pot, they held it until it started blooming and kept it short somehow or another. But I think it was supposed to be 18 inches to 2 foot tall, Laura phlox. It was an accidental buy, actually. I had read about a breed of phlox which, and by the way, this is only about 10 inches tall. I had read about a breed of phlox which is the best for pollinators, which is Jenna phlox, Jeana, and I couldn't remember the name of it. And when I was at the garden center, I saw Laura, and I thought Laura was Jenna. So don't make that, never mistake Laura for Jenna. I'll show you my 3. Okay, here. This is the, I had to order these. These are Jenna phlox right here, so not going to be much this year. Hopefully next year something will come of it pollination wise, but I have seen videos where they're attracting excellent pollinator activity. Right over here, past everything else, this is the Luna Pink Hibiscus, hardy hibiscus. It's a recent Lowe's buy. Bought it for $5 on sale there the other day. It was in the dead plant section, we'll call it. Okay, let's just move on here. I know I've covered all the bergamot and everything. One thing I've not really covered, I should have shown better in the other garden, is this here is Shoal Creek Vitex. I've got 3 or 4 in this bed and one in the previous bed I showed, and several in my other upcoming beds. So yeah, this here is pretty tall. It's an obedient plant. It's white. I know they have a pink version, but this is the white version. Again, just minimalist pollinator activity. And of course, if you're not familiar, I see a sweat bee or two on it. If you're not familiar with the obedient plant, the deal on the obedient plant, let me see if I can find my finger, is you're supposed to be able to take the blooms and just push them any way you want, and they kind of stay. I don't think that was a very good example of such. Okay, let's try this one. Okay, push a bloom. See there how the blooms just sort of stay, and over a period of time they will return to their normal positions. And there you go. That's obedient plant. It's a cool looking plant. Even though it's so far fairly minimalist on pollinators, I'm definitely planning on keeping it. I don't have very much true white stuff in my garden at all, and this is just really a pretty plant. There's this another Verbena Bonariensis. And moving on, this still, I mentioned it in my one previous garden overview, an ever blooming lilac bloomerang. It bloomed one minimalist time early in the year, and that's it so far. And if last year is any indication, that's going to be it for the year for this ever blooming, air quotes, ever blooming. Well, I want to say Wigelia because I do have some Wigelia I'll show you later. But bloomerang lilac. Here is okay, I've already shown the dwarf Joe Pieweed. And moving around here, this is a dwarf. See right here on the left with the red bloom, this is more Silky's Dream, Salvia Gregia. This is a Betty Magnolia. It's a dwarf magnolia. Probably gets 6 to 8 foot tall. I doubt if it'll get more than that. It's done really well this year. Right now, it's about 16 inches tall. Done really, it got ate down by, or trampled down, broken up by squirrels twice last year. And so it's kind of a bushy plant now because of that. So that's actually kind of a good thing. And I know it's, garden bed may not be the best place for a magnolia tree, but it is a dwarf. It will, I imagine, it will probably take over this end of the bed. That's why I put it on the end, so it just over, at least half of it will overhang the bed. And this through here really actually is quite of a wind tunnel. This little strip right here, this 40 foot by 6 foot strip. And if this gets up and kind of bushy, that's gonna help and fills in this end of the bed. That will help blunt my wind and kind of protect this other tall stuff a little bit, hopefully. Okay, moving on here, we got, as I said before, this is the Laura phlox over here, not to be mistaken with the Jenna phlox. The Jenna phlox is a lighter pink type of color. And right here is some older phlox that I've had. I'm not sure what kind it is. It's some kind of tall, fairly tall garden phlox. Right now, that's about 18 inches tall. I do have a few milkweed plants over here. This one's sort of dying back on the ends just a little bit. Milkweed. Down here is a honeysuckle that's, it's had a hard life so far, but I'm just going to let her go, and eventually it will develop enough of a root structure to where it will be able to climb that in spite of the squirrels, I'm figuring. Okay, continuing on the back side, this is the Atris Piccata. I kind of covered it on the front side. Right here is some a dead foxglove. It's gone to seed. I intend to broadcast the seed all over the place here. And this is Liatris linguistylis right here that is only just now started to bloom. And supposedly the Liatris linguistylis, and I'm thinking next year if I cut it back a little, it will, I'm hoping it will be less spindly, a little shorter, maybe even multi-branched. I don't know what its natural habit is, but supposedly it does a better job attracting butterflies than the Liatris spicata. So we'll see. Anyway, Liatris linguistylis, also known I believe as meadow blazing star. And there's the obedient plant again. Okay, we're pretty much done here. I'm gonna wind up. Okay, now I don't know how much I covered the Crocosmia lucifer. I talked about it a lot, but I don't think I really did a good shot of the base of these plants because I just kind of wanted to show how much they're spreading. I planted it only last year, just one or two. They had one or two or maybe even three central plants, and you can see it's sending out offshoots, which to me is a good thing. I think it's absolutely a gorgeous plant. And now it is kind of floppy and unkempt looking in the garden, but that's okay. That's the kind of stuff I generally plant anyway. If you had a neat and tidy type garden, this would stick out like a sore thumb in it. Or maybe you could do a lot of staking and get it to do a little bit better. So then there's my black knot butterfly bush. Okay, this is bed number 2. Let's sort of get a back up, a little bit of an overview of it. Overall, it's a success this year. I think it looks okay for a wild and crazy tall type of garden. Now over here in bed 1, which I have already shown, I did miss a couple of things. We'll go over here, probably more than a couple, but a couple that I know of. Right here is a new version. Well, I don't know how new it is, but to me it's new. It's another Caryopteris, but it's not the Caryopteris like I'm used to at the garden center. I had to send off and get this one. This is Caryopteris Grand Blue, not B-L-U-E, but B-L-E-U. That one there is about 1 foot tall. So don't know how much blooming I'll get out of it this year. It's just been in a few days. I got 2 of them. Caryopteris Grand Blue. And this is actually my best view of a Shoal Creek Vitex here. It's 2 foot tall, and I'm expecting great things. Zone 7A here, it's a little bit iffy about whether it dies back to the ground at the end of the year. I'll probably cut these back to the ground that I have because they're mixed in with other stuff where it really wouldn't be appropriate to have a full-sized Shoal Creek Vitex in with everything else. It would crowd everything else out, and they do have a tendency to, if they're in exposed areas, they'll die back to the ground on their own anyway. I have seen one in town that has a wall on 2 sides of it, which kind of protects it quite a bit, and it's about 10 foot tall. Just a gorgeous plant. Okay, moving on here. 1 other or 2 other really things about this garden bed here. Right here is 2 different kinds of asters, and these have just spread like wildfire. This first aster, which is probably about 8 inches tall, and that's just about as tall as this one gets. This is a short variety. This is some kind of, I think it's Woods Blue aster. Don't quote me on that, but it's been in for a long time, and I really think it's a Woods Blue aster. And I've got it backed up now by a new aster. Planted this last year, this tall aster here. This is Radon's favorite. It's in the aromatic family of asters. It's, I don't know, 2, 3, 3.5 foot tall, not as tall as a lot of the other asters, and And a couple, it's spread. I planted 5 plants last year, and get a different view of it here. Planted 5 plants, 2 of them died, so really I only had 2 plants. So this is what I've got right here of the Radon's Favorite Aromatic Aster from 3 plants last year, and I bent some of these down and covered up the limbs, so it would spread even faster. I believe that works with these particular asters. So the idea, of course, is to have a short aster in the front there, and then the taller, the short Woods Blue aster in the front, and then a taller Radon's Favorite in the back, plus the Radon's Favorite blooms later into the fall. I'm hoping it will go to frost. The Woods Blue aster, the 6 to 8 inch aster there, definitely does not go into the fall. It will quit blooming a full month before frost. Okay, as near as I can figure, that completes the tour of this particular garden bed. If I missed anything, I'll get it the next time. Well, and I do, it's nothing much to show right now, but I got a honeysuckle I'm trying to climb up that, and I'm trying to climb another honeysuckle to climb up there, and that central thing, the thing right in the very center, is for the Wisteria. I'm attempting it, and this chain here, this is another. See, by the way, these pair of honeysuckles coming from left and right is a gold flame honeysuckle, and they did bloom. They looked really good this year. This here was, I can't remember the exact name of this honeysuckle. It doesn't look like much now. I think it's just in holding mode till next year. I'm trying to train it on this these chains that I put. I really kind of, squirrel, kind of like the chain trellis that I've got here. The birds like it too, but it had some minimalistic yellow blooms on it this year. That was after it had the worst outbreak of aphids I've ever seen on any plant in history, and it was going great guns, and the aphids just stopped its growth dead in its tracks. It never grew hardly any at all after it got the aphid infestation, even though I did what I could for the aphid infestation. Okay, I'm tripping over everything as I back out of here. The big bush in the background there is a type of viburnum. It's kind of the anchor point of the garden, if you will. And it's been just a great bush. It just has minimalistic white blooms. Even though there's not much to those blooms, the honeybees do love those in the spring. And next to the viburnum up here is a wild cherry tree. So the birds, it did bloom a little bit this spring. The first blooms it's ever had, it just came up on its own. But yeah, it's been a great plant for the birds. That's just all there to it. There, right there is a catbird right in the center, dead center of the frame. It's a catbird eating some suet. I think that is where the term the catbird seat comes from, because it manages to stand on that little elastic band there and just eat. All right, let's move over here to the side gardens. Some grass mowing going on. Okay, this is a coral honeysuckle. I'll just cover a few things on the way to the side garden. Coral honeysuckle, this was on some kind of pine type tree. Tree died, and we put a honeysuckle there, climbed up, did wonderful. And a tree trunk tried to fall over, and we liked the looks of it so much, about 3 or 4 years ago, we actually T-poled this thing right here, the trunk of it, and wired the trunk to the T-pole. And so I like the way the branches come off of this thing. This is how I was actually kind of hoping my Wisteria would look someday. So far, no. Alrighty, right here we have an Appletini Heuchera or Heucherella, one of the two. I'm not going to get into the differences and all that. There's a Heuchera, Heucherella, and Heucherella is a combination of two. But it's done kind of. The Heucherella, I said I wasn't going to get into that and not. So one thing about this is, I don't know, I keep filling in. Some critter keeps digging a hole right there. I don't know if he's digging a hole just to dig a hole or if he's digging a hole for a home. But really don't need, you know, I'm a wildlife person, but I really don't need a bunch of critters undermining the foundation of the porch here. So I'm going to keep filling in those holes as they dig them, I guess. This is a red rover Heuchera, and it looks a little sad right now, but sometimes it looks really good depending on what time of year it is. I don't know what's going into it right here. Right here, this is a recent planting. These by mail, the center plant there by mail order. That's only I don't know, it's only about 10 inches tall. That's a trumpet vine. Yeah, I know it's supposed to just take off and go crazy, but it's kind of what I want for the time being. I want to see if the hummingbirds like it. This right here is an Indian pink plant. And it's got, really, it was, whenever I bought it last year, it was one little lone stalk with a little bitty pink bloom on it. But it was kind of nice, so I got it, and it's bushed out here. It came out, it was the last thing this year to come out. I don't think it came out till the 1st of June, to tell the truth of the matter. This is a kind of a sad looking rose bush here. But it will improve. It always does. It always almost dies and then it always improves. Okay, another trumpet creeper. This is more of the, now keep in mind in the pot, the kettle out there is 3 Sun Cities Santa Cruz begonia. And this is 4 pots of the Santa Cruz begonias right here. One variety I may try next year if I don't save the tubers here and plant these next year. Make sure there's one breed called Bonfire. Bonfire tuberous begonia is the one that I actually wanted this year, and I never could find it on planting time. So I went up to Santa Cruz, and I couldn't ask for a better plant as far as looks wise. I could ask for a lot better plant pollinator wise. Okay, this is just a couple of Sabrina hollyhock type plants. It's not really mallow or something like that. This is a clematis vine. You can tell. I mean, sort of tell because I've deadheaded a lot of these old blooms. But yeah, it did really well this year. It's up about 6 feet right now. Okay, moving over here. This is a April Tryst Camilla bush. It's about close to 6 foot tall. I love the foliage on it. It looks better on the side of the house. It had a couple of branches that died out on this other side here a year or two ago, but it's filling back in and looking pretty nice. But, yeah, April Tryst Camilla. I've had this plant for many years, and I think that they come out with a lot better cultivars now as far as showy blooms. This will bloom in April. That's the name, April Tryst. But really, nothing wrong with old-fashioned blooms, but this is really an old-fashioned looking bloom that's not showy at all. And compared to the number of buds that it has going into the spring, it lines up with very few blooms. I think they just get frosted out or something. All right, this right here, this little bush, this is a Loropetalum, also known as fringe flower, fringe plant. And you might be wondering why in the earth have I got such a huge hole for such a small plant. But yeah, you see these 2 stumps here. I dug out a 3rd stump that was right here a few days back. and I had this plant that, again, I got it on sale at Lowe's. This was a good deal. Laura Pedlin Razzleberry Fringe Flower. Plant view. Right now this thing is only about 8 inches tall and really about 14 inches wide. And it's supposed to get in excess of 6 foot tall anyway. So we'll see that as it's looking nice and healthy at the moment anyway. Okay, there's that. And over here I have 2 main beds and then a couple of other items. Let's get on the upper side of these beds here. Okay, right here. Well, let's just cover the center first. All right, the center, this triangle, more or less a triangle type of bed, is Sonic Bloom Pink Weigelia. And I've resisted the temptation to put any annuals in here along with the Weigelia. Because ultimately I would be going down to just the 3 Weigelia, and if they do well, they will cover this whole bed right here in the center. All 3 plants are the same age. Don't ask me why one looks so much better than the other 2. These other 2 did about die this spring when frost hits, and a vicious late frost, not just a late frost, but a 16-degree day, morning late frost. So that really set things back. Also, we got an arbor here with grapevines. I got 4 grapevines I purchased just this spring. Doing reasonably well. I won't go into the names because I would have to bend over and look them up right now. Later on I will go into the names when I do more of a video. I do know the one on the left is Candace, which I had one that died recently. Why I remember the one on the left is I recently had to fool with that. But yeah, seedless grapes, and hopefully they'll do well. I think there is a Concord variety in there. All right, this is going to be, let me give you a little bit of history on these 2 beds here. This is going to be a tale of 2 beds. And no, it's not a story about Laura and Jenna. It's not nearly so racy as Laura and Jenna. But anyway, okay. The bed on the left. Okay, they started out, from the same raw material, we'll say, which is a poor raw material. We're talking a thick, thatchy zoya grass, hard to deal with, and just fairly hard clay underneath that. Not hard pan clay, but just nothing but clay, just enough topsoil, just enough brown looking soil to kind of, like an inch worth underneath the grass, the sorry zoya grass that I hate. I wish we didn't have the zoya grass, because you talk about something that is hard to deal with when you're doing garden beds or any kind of plantings. You don't want zoya grass. Do not plant zoya grass. It spreads by underground rhizomes, and it is relentless. And I've got edging, metal edging all the way around these 2 beds, and I've got it almost down to ground level so it won't undermine it. Where the edging comes together, 8-foot sections of edging, has a tendency to try to get in there, so I have to stay on top of that. And even where there's several on each section, there's a section where you drive in a metal stake, and that's another intrusion point where that metal stake is. So a little bit of zoya grass will also get in there. I see some of my sage, Russian sage here has flopped overnight. These beds are a little bit damper than what I was expecting them to be out here. I think the clay holds in the moisture a little bit. But I have got quite a bit of time, energy, and money in both of these beds and amending the soil. Just unbelievable amount of effort. But here's the deal on the tail of two garden beds. Now, although they started out the same, this bed here on the right, which predominantly has Salvia and Augustache and is mostly a maintenance-free bed because I do not water this bed. It has a few other things, not many. But I started out on this bed. I stripped the Zoya grass. I knocked all the dirt off of it, got rid of all the roots, and hauled off about four pickup loads of just pure old clay before I started amending the soil, because otherwise I didn't really want a high berm to start with. I know beds have a tendency, just as you add stuff and amendments and all, that gradually builds up a berm over the years, but I didn't want to start with a high berm of soil, so I hauled off numerous, about 4 pickup loads of dirt, not dirt, but clay, and just amended it with, here is the amendments I used, by the way. Let's look over here and see if I've got any. Oh yeah, this is what you amend clay with, and I recommend this. This is great stuff. Hopefully you have it in your area. Nature's Helper Organic Soil Conditioner, and just add it until the clay looks like something resembling soil, which sometimes it takes quite a bit. But I mixed that after I got all of the 4 pickup truckloads out of here. The Zoya grass stripped off. I amended the soil with that and sand and 1 or 2 other, and even some gypsum, which is kind of controversial whether the gypsum even works on busting up clay, but I did put gypsum in here, about 100 pounds. But and as far as I'm concerned, I wound up with a decent soil here. I'll show you here. This is pretty much the consistency. This is mulch pine straw, of course. Okay. Yes. Okay. So anyway, this is sort of what I wound up with. It's not too bad a soil, and represents a lot of effort, but anyway, anytime I want to plant anything into this bed, I can just pop it in there, no trouble at all. I just go dig a hole practically with my hands, but normally I use a little trowel type of thing, a little garden implement, and just pop it right in, no muss, no fuss. And like I say, this retains enough moisture where it's been mostly maintenance free. All right, in contrast, this was so much effort, I said to myself, on this bed, I'm just going to wait till next year to deal with it. It's just too much work. I've already exhausted myself on this. Too much work over here. And what happened is I wound up with a lot of extra plants. And then I got to saying, well, I'll just pop in a few extra plants here and there over in this bed. Just overflow, just kind of an overflow bed with this, that, and the other. And every single time I had to dig a hole, root the thatch, knock all of the dirt off of the fat, off of the roots, the Zoya grass. And this is Zoya grass, which had already had, last September, I put like 4 to 5 inches of that soil conditioner I just showed you on top of the Zoya grass. And it pretty much killed the Zoya grass, but the thatch, the thick thatch that is hard to deal with, is still there. It's not rotting at all. So I don't know if it's still viable in any way, shape, or form, but it's still tough to deal with. So, and anytime I want to plant anything in this particular bed here, it's a chore. Every single plant that goes in here is like the opposite of pulling teeth, I guess you'd say, to get the plant installed. And in contrast to that bed, which is just pop it right in there. All right, now all that said, I'm going to cover the plants. This bed, You see all those tall things there? There's somewhere around 19 or 20 Verbena Bonariensis. I grew seed, and that's what kind of prompted me on this bed to go ahead and more or less complete it. I had all these Verbena Bonariensis I had grown from seed, and I didn't want to throw them out, so I popped them all in here, and one thing led to another, and I just packed it all wall-to-wall plants by now. So it's got a lot of annuals, so it's a lot of room for expansion next year. So we got our Verbena Bonariensis, tons of them, and I really like the way some of them here at the bottom, more so than others, have like this candelabra effect, let's say, with a side branching. Maybe in time all of them will have, but as I was working in the bed, it was very difficult not to damage the bottoms of these plants. You see this one doesn't have too much there, but a lot of them do. So part of that may be my fault on all of them not being as majestically branched there on the bottom as they otherwise would be. So about 18 to 20 of these, and then we've got around 10 Mexican sunflowers. And although these Mexican sunflowers on average, although there is a tall one right there, these came out of 2 packs, and I'm thinking they're somehow a little bit different, because one group of them kind of got tall like that, and another group of them kind of got bushy like that. But they all say Daphne rotundiflora on them, but I think they are just a little bit different. But on average, these are shorter than what I previously shown, and where I had the string holding all of them up. And but these are healthier looking plants. They do not have near as much black spot on the leaves. And then we have a few Cleome plants, which this is a good example right here. Cleome stuff eats on it just a little bit. I am, even though I love these Cleome plants, like I say, they're the plant from another planet as far as the way the blooms look. So there's one. There's another version. There's several cultivars of Cleome plant. This is just the wild native cultivar around here, which reseeds time and time reliably in the garden. There's one called Rocky Mountain Bee Plant, which is Cleome cerulata, and it has more mass to the blooms. It's kind of similar, but kind of not. And much more mass to the blooms, more blooms, and I really think it'll do a better job pollinator-wise. I actually planted some seed the other day. I really don't think it has time to flower this year, but you know, who knows? We tend to, it doesn't frost here till, let's see, middle of October sometimes. That's a lilac bush over there. Okay, what else have we got in here? We've got a few other things in here. This right here is a white profusion butterfly bush. Right there. It's supposed to be a fairly large butterfly bush, maybe even rivaling the black knight. And then I've got a few other butterfly bushes, some black knights, and some that just say red butterfly bush. So I don't really know what kind they are other than to say red butterfly bush. And right here we have more of what I showed in the other beds, more Iberian Higcoat St. John's wort. I apologize for the lawnmower. There it is right there. And Iberian Higcoat St. John's wort. Just sort of circumnavigate this bed here. Try to speed things up slightly. Okay. One thing I noticed, this is the first time I've ever filmed a video with this iPad, and I kind of like it because I'm more stable when I'm moving around. I'm a whole lot less shaky than I am with the camera, so that's a good thing. Right here is 4 bell peppers. I told you this started out as an overflow bed, so I have 4 extra bell peppers from the veggie garden, which I don't think I'll show the veggie garden today. This video is going to be long enough as it is. But these are orange sunset bell peppers, and they're starting to look pretty good. They started out a little iffy looking. Right here, from seed, this is Echinacea Purpurea, just your normal old-fashioned native type of echinacea as far as I know. Planted it from seed. It's taken a long time to get it to this stage here. It's maybe 5 inches tall right now, but I think it's going to make it. All it needs to do is put in enough root growth to sprout again next spring, and it should do well next year. Right here is a Canna Lily. I don't know the exact name of this one, but this it has, you can see right now it's about 10 inches tall, and it will spread like crazy if it does like it did in the other bed. I had a large stand of it in the other bed last year, and we had, even though this is zone 7A, we had like a zone 6 winter last year, and I didn't bring this in. We had a zone 6 type of winter, and 95% of it died. One little sprig was left, and that is the north side of the house and a little bit damp. So I said, well, I'll just put it over here. I'm not going to bring it in over the winter. So I'm going to put it in full sun here in an open bed and see how it goes, and so far so good. Alrighty, moving on here, right where this pole is here, this is, what is this? I'll come back to it when I remember it, because I have other stuff to cover anyway. Right here is the Scabiosa that I moved out here in hopes that it would just, survive the rest of the summer here and maybe come out and look pretty good next year. This does have a kind of a new patch of growth on it right here, so maybe it will do okay. Okay, right here I have 3. This was planted only a couple of weeks ago. This is a bare root plant. Right now it's about 5.5 inches tall. This is Culver's root, Verbena castrum, something like that is the Latin name. Some people think it may be related to a Verbena castrum. So hence the name Veronica in there in the Latin title. But I've got 3 of these plants. They get way tall, like 6-7 foot, and have white spiky type blooms. A little bit smaller blooms than a true Veronica, but quite a few of them. So I'm looking for good things out of that, because it's purported to be a really good pollinator plant. Right here we have 3 Jack Russell mixed lupins. When I was going down the other side, I had a bed, a little section over there. It's got about a dozen of these, but I don't need to go over there because you can get the general idea of what's what here. So these will get tall. These will get maybe 4 to 5 foot tall, and mixed lupins. So I imagine they have all different kind of colored blooms on them. Right here, this is a plant that's I've been kind of impressed with this. This is Veronica Royal Candles, and what impresses me, it's kind of a low-growing Veronica. Consistently, since I put it out, has had a few blooms on it, and the foliage has held up and been just nicer, cleaner looking foliage than a lot of Veronicas and plants that gets other Veronica varieties which get taller. So right now, the basal growth on this is only about 4 inches tall, and then those particular spikes are up another 3 inches or so. All right, this is an apricot gaillardia. This is just just 3 inches tall or so, apricot gaillardia. I ordered it the other day. And right here is another Lowe's $3 type buy. All 3 of these plants are beard's tongue And this is arabesque beardstone. Originally, all three plants were in a pot, a single pot at Lowe's for $12, and they had them in their little sale section for $3. So of course that comes to $1 a plant. Can't hardly beat that. I'm sure I've missed something here. Oh yes, of course I have. Okay. This is, I moved this from the other garden because it wasn't getting enough sun. Blue Hill Salvia, which when it looks its best, really does look terrific. And I'm hoping it does better here than it did in the other garden. But I don't know if it will do much else this year other than wind up forming a new nice rosette there in the center. And that's probably what will happen here, is form a new rosette, and I'll trim back some of the other. These plants, I did already show them in the other garden, but they did not look nearly this good. These are the Estella Indigo Augustache, and the overall plant that you're looking at there is about 10 inches tall, and I grew these from seed starting this way early in the spring. I grew these from seed, and these are looking a lot better than they do in the other garden. Just as far as I'm concerned, a great border plant. I compared it earlier to the blue boa. I do like the blue boa better, but like I say, this has its use. You could plant this in front of the blue boa in a garden bed, and it would look really nice, have a nice stair-step effect because the blue boa is taller. This is the rest of the Jack Russell lupins right here. I have no experience with lupins. This is my first time planting them. We'll see how they do. Okay, so that is that bed. Okay, back up here. And we're going to move on here to the other bed with the Salvia and Augustache mainly. This shouldn't take too long because I've got a lot of similar plantings in this one, in contrast to a lot of my beds where we got one of. I got a lot of the same thing here. This main bunch right here that you're seeing is the blue boa, which I have given good press to, and pollinator wise, this has actually been one of my bigger success stories, has been the blue boa. It just attracts a variety of large and small pollinators. I'm not going to even count butterflies right at the moment because we don't have anything. So there's that. Let's see if I can capture one bumblebee here on the blue boa. A little bumblebee or a carpenter bee. I don't know. I think that's a carpenter bee. Where are you? There you go. There you go. I tend to think that those that kind of look yellow, like almost like they got two yellow front teeth, I think that is an earmark of a carpenter bee, really. But that's okay. We have a painted deck and a brick house and don't really have any troubles with them. But yeah, I highly recommend the blue boa Augustache. Okay, there's another lilac bush. This one did bloom this year and really smelled terrific for for a week or so, and then that was it. All right here. These haven't looked so healthy. These are Salvia patchy. Let's see, blue flame Salvia patchyphila, and they're supposed to get like huge, and I think that it's just absolutely been too damp here. This bed, like I say, it surprised me how much moisture it retains. It doesn't, it drains well. It doesn't get the feet of the plants that wet, but it's just wet enough to where your dry loving plants don't do fantastic. Okay, we got some Blue Hill Salvia there. This is some sort of, I think this is a Furman's Red, Salvia greggii, and these red salvia that you see here, which I've got numerous of them. I showed 2 of them on next to my arbor, and my other bed is maraschino cherry salvia, and as I said before, the maraschino cherry and the hot lips. And the hot lips right now is not too much bloom wise to see. There's one right there. But the bumblebees have really enjoyed them out here in this bed, although there's just not a lot of activity right at the moment. Excuse me. All right, moving on. This is 3 lavender plants, which I'm surprised they're doing as well as they are, since the bed stays just a little bit moist. I grew these from seed, and I really don't have a good idea in a way what kind of lavender it is. It said the seed packs on them says true lavender. So whether that's English or French, I don't know. We got one little attempt at a bloom here, but yeah, they're looking pretty healthy, which for me, lavender in the ground hasn't worked out too good. So far so good. This is a plant that does require a little bit of water. This is a hummingbird plant called Royal Catchfly. This one here is about 7 inches tall, and it has some sort of blooms the hummingbirds like. It's about all I can tell you about it. It's one little old plant. Hopefully it's looking a lot better than it did last year. All it would take is one dog paw and that would be gone, however. Okay, which happens on occasion. More maraschino cherry and hot lips and blue hills. I think some of this salvia I'm calling this may not be blue hills. This could be May night. I got a couple of May nights in here somewhere. And here's some more of this. This is black adder agastache, and it's done pretty well here. Out in my other garden, I can't remember if I showed it or not. I don't think I did, but I planted 5 plants in my main garden of the black adder last year. Did really well. I was expecting it to, like most perennials, you expect them to do better the second year and the third year, and it looks about half as good as what it did the first year, so that's kind of surprising and disappointing. But anyway, the black adder is looking great, and not so far this year, but last year I got it in late, it bloomed late, and that's when our pollinators tend to come, and it was amazing the amount of bumblebee activity that the black adder generated. Just absolutely amazing. Like I say, so far this year, not so much, but I don't think that's indicative of the plant. It's just indicative of the way of pollinator activity in this area is going, which is early in the year, nothing. A lot of maraschino cherry and hot lips salvia here. All right, let's move on to the interior of the bed. I did put a few little pavers out here. I do have 3 butterfly bushes right in the center. These are a dwarf variety of butterfly bush. I got them from Walmart. But this is the Buzz series of butterfly bush from Walmart. And this is purple. There's other colors in this Buzz series, but yeah, they're nice and healthy. They're growing in between each one, which I know it's bound to be too close to the butterfly bush. But in between these is more the beard tongue, the arabesque beard tongue. Okay, well, we got a bumblebee or a carpenter bee. He's asleep. I wish I had a macro mode on this. If it was brighter, it would focus better. There's no point getting closer. But anyway, let's see here. And this is Desert Solstice Salvia, which is, I believe, judging by it, maybe a Salvia Salvia greggii. All this salvia in here will get, especially the Salvia greggii, will get quite a bit larger. So next year, I'm expecting not to even really be able to see any of this pine straw mulch next season. All right, we've got something else here. I know I've got a few extra plants in here. This is Walker's Low Catmint here, and this is actually about the healthiest any of my catmint has looked. Trying to get a little scale there, but usually I just have too much rain to do catmint, but this looks pretty good. And right here, this is another bargain Heat Wave Glitter Salvia. Got it for $1. It's also a Salvia greggii. So I've got 3 of those. One of them is about dead, but the other 2, that one and that one, is doing really nicely. Here is a fairly large Shoal Creek vitex. It's a little bit over knee high. And there's another beer tongue. Let's see, let's continue on through here because I think I've gotten a couple of extra things. This is a Black Knight butterfly bush. What else do we have? This right here is another dye from Lowe's, which was in the bargain bin. I cannot remember the name of it. I'll look it up later on. Terrific looking plant. When it's in the pot in the store, it just really doesn't do it justice. But visually, this is one of my better looking plants. Really zero pollinator so far. But I always have to say so far because, like I keep repeating ad nauseum, we just haven't had many this year. This here is a Tennessee coneflower. It's a little bit on its side. A dog came through here and graced us with his presence and did that, but not too bad. It'll straighten back up. It's about, I don't know, about 8 or 9 inches tall. Most of my stuff is pretty little because it's fairly new plantings. This here is some more black adder. No, that's not black adder there. This is more of the Stello Indigo Augustache. And right over here in the background, that's some more black adder there. So let's get out of this bed. I feel the soil sinking and me compacting it as we speak. So we can get a different view. This bed right here is some rhododendrons. This is an old bed. It was like overgrown like crazy. You would not believe how overgrown this bed was. That's why the rhododendrons don't look so great. And there's an old walnut tree that was in there. I'll give it a couple of years if they don't shape up a little better. I'll put some different ones in there. And right here is another. There's one mulch method. Just whatever happens to be handy, rake it all up and put it around your plant. And if it's not, right in front of the house, you can get away with doing that, and it's not too bad. And all that mulch basically came from when I put out my pine straw, and it had a bunch of sticks and cones and stuff in it, so I just raked it over here. This is another fringe plant. The other one I showed where I dug the stump out was a razzleberry fringe, about 6 foot tall, supposedly it gets. This is a snow panda fringe flower. It's supposed to get taller, maybe as tall as 8 to 10 feet. Doesn't look like it now, but that's what they say. All right, I think this is just about as good a place as any to end this video. I think I will just kind of do a slow walk so we can kind of get the general idea of these side beds here. And I've got the arbor there, and then the small bed in the center. Aster. So, I wish this tree right here was not here. It's actually in the power lines. It's some kind of chestnut tree. It drops chestnuts with like real spiky type of covering every year, and it blocks a lot of sun. I still have enough sun in these beds. If that tree wasn't there, I mean, and I'm a tree person, don't get me wrong, but sometimes they're in the wrong spots. So here we go. I know I keep complaining about lack of pollinators, and then when I shoot these videos, you see all kind of stuff darting about, and mostly a lot of that is gnat activity that's close to my limbs. So it's not the kind of pollinator activity we really want. Okay, so that's it. Hopefully I'll do at least one more video here before the end of the growing season to update you guys on how things is coming along. And I know this is a long one, but whenever you only do 2 a year, I think I should be indulged to do a long one. All right, bye everybody.